Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, I have a couple of encounters of very strange cryptids. One that seems to describe a spider-like pale crawler, and the other, another faceless white entity, was seen by the witness who describes his story. And one of the stories we'll be reading today, folks. Either way, let's start off with this article. Crawling spider-like terror while camping in northeast Missouri. Let's read this article and hear exactly what this guy saw, folks, and that left him so frightened. While camping deep in the woods of northeast Missouri, a man was jolted awake by an eerie moan and the sound of his tent zipper opening. What followed was a face-to-face encounter with a horrifying crawler-like entity, empty eyes, gaping mouth, and spider-like movements that left him fleeing in terror. Later, he and his friends found only a strange circle in a nearby cornfield, leaving the question of whether this was a demon, spirit, or something far more unknown. Very unusual story, folks, and very unusual opening. Let's read the whole account now. I was camping in the middle of nowhere, northeast Missouri. As ridiculous as it sounds, right about 3 a.m., I was awoken up by what I can only describe as a zombie movie moan. I then heard something scrapping on the front fabric, and then I listened to the zipper get pulled down. As this was happening, I sat up and was positioned in the middle of the tent, freaking out. The tent flap opened, about a third of it anyway. Then a creature resembling a crawler or the creepy image from that trail camera Skinwalker, which I'm sure you've all seen before. This thing peeks into my tent with its mouth wide open. It didn't have teeth, though, and its eyes were also empty sockets with little eyes. I honestly don't know how to describe its appearance. I was instantly crying like an absolute baby, even though I'm a grown man. That thing just slowly backed away after probably 30 seconds. I then grabbed my phone, knife, and car keys and dove out of the tent flap, sprinting all the way to my car. As I was running, I could see this thing galloping into a nearby cornfield. It ran like a jumping spider gallops. I returned the next morning with my family to collect all my camping gear. A few weeks later, a few friends and I grabbed our rifles and went exploring out there again. The only odd thing we found was a crop circle-esque area in the corn. I believe it was a demon feeding off of our fear, but I honestly don't have a better answer for what the F happened. The only stories I found regarding the area were a few accounts of people seeing Civil War-era ghosts, but no one I know has ever encountered anything similar. What do you think the experiencer encountered? Was it a crawler, humanoid, or something entirely different lawn? Well, it sounds like it was indeed a crawler, folks, but it could also have been an alien being, especially with the crop circle. Most definitely it does resemble a pale crawler, though, but then again, as I've always said, folks, pale crawlers do resemble great aliens, at least in some respects. This one, though, like in other pale crawler encounters, it was lacking the big black eyes. It only had basically small little eyes and basically big deep sockets, but it also had no teeth, which is also something we've seen before in other pale crawler accounts, where they mostly, have featureless faces, but in a few accounts they have basically some features. In the last account we read about, it had alien big black eyes, but had no mouth, literally as if it were basically wearing a mask. Here, we basically have an account where this guy sees something that basically has small black eyes and deep sockets, and it has no teeth in its mouth. But otherwise, it resembles a great alien. So, was that exactly what this guy saw? Especially with basically the fact that nearby there was a crop circle. We don't know, but certainly something well worth talking about later as well. But folks, let's continue. So let's get into the next one, folks. Faceless white entity encountered in remote North Carolina woods. Here exactly what was encountered, folks. This time, this faceless entity that sounds very reminiscent of a ghost, or maybe even an celestial or, mythological creature is witnessed. So let's read on and hear exactly what happened. In the remote woods of North Carolina, 3 friends encountered a tall, white, faceless humanoid that seemed to glide silently before vanishing into the trees. With strange mimicry, unexplained noises, and a chilling presence around the property, the experience left them terrified and searching for answers. Was it an alien, a ghost, a demon, or a cryptid? Very interesting opening, folks. Let's now read their story. Anyone seen anything like this? Hello everyone, my friends live in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. Many unusual things happen around their property. We hear whistling coming from the woods, doors opening and shutting, and we hear something mimic our voices, etc. Anyways, about 6 months ago, my friend, their sister, and I were all outside in their yard. It was around dusk, and as we approached the woods, we all saw this thing. It was very tall, humanoid, and was white in color. It had no face and did not seem to have any feet, legs. It was almost as if it was gliding as it moved. We saw it for about a minute and a half before it disappeared behind some trees. My friends and I have been so freaked out since this happened, we've all looked online to see if we could find someone who has experienced something similar with no luck. I tried explaining what we saw to ChatGPT, which I know is often frowned upon, and it came back with this image, which is eerily accurate. Has anyone seen anything like this? Is it an alien, ghost, demon, cryptid? Thanks. You know, this sounds very similar, minus the wings, to a recent article I did in a video about this woman who took these bird bones from this Native American graveyard, and she saw this white, faceless, winged entity. It sounds very similar to that. Is there any possible relationship? Obviously, something to point out is the locations have nothing to do with each other, folks, because the encounter with the Native American faceless winged entity took place in Minden, Nevada, while this encounter took place in North Carolina. But that doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of relationship here. Supposing that this North American encounter did take place on land that once belonged to Native Americans and something took place there, if this is what was witnessed, maybe the spirit of some sort of warrior, perhaps? I don't know, but let's read on. It was around 80 to 100 yards away from us. It made no sound that we could hear. We were, honestly, so freaked out that we froze. We didn't say a word. Once we realized what the hell we were looking at, we booked it inside the house and locked the door. We were all sitting on the porch, just hanging out. We didn't have our phones with us. They were inside the house, and all honesty, when we saw it, we all froze in place. Even if we did have our phones, common sense leaves your mind when you're scared. Has anyone seen anything like this? Hello, everyone. My friends live in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and many strange things have happened around their property. We hear whistling coming from the woods, doors opening and shutting on their own, and occasionally we hear something that mimics our voices. Now, the uploader of this video left an initial of P, folks, and P's story is very bizarre. Like basically the various accounts of people seeing pale crawlers or even spiritual beings, this entity is very, very ethereal in its description, isn't it, folks? So, like the encounter with basically the Native American angelic figure with no face as well, folks. Was this some sort of spiritual entity, a demon? Or was it some sort of alien being? Perhaps some sort of ethereal cosmic force that was seen by these people? We simply don't know. I get tired of saying that, folks, but simply we just don't know the real answer to this. It sounds to me, folks, that this could have been some sort of spiritual entity, but maybe some sort of alien spiritual entity, because it doesn't resemble anything that I've really seen in, folklore, except maybe perhaps an angelic or maybe a jinn account. But then again, in those accounts they mentioned that the entities are made of smokeless fire. But P and their friends didn't describe it like that, folks. They just say it was an ethereal, legless being that seemed to glide instead of walk. So whatever this entity was, it feels like it was very real, but also unreal at the same time. Like it was there and they saw it, but it was almost like it was just a casted image from maybe some sort of a projector or something. So we have to also ask, folks, maybe they were the subject of some sort of prank or hoax, maybe done by individuals with some sort of bizarre technology, maybe working for the government, and they were testing out this technology. As we've talked about before, folks, with some encounters, they feel like they're literally just images that people see or put on for the benefit of the witnesses. Maybe this indeed was an encounter with an alien being, and it wanted these people to see it, as I've said before with that theory as well. For what reason? We can only see and say that maybe these entities do want to be seen, but that's about it. That's all we can really surmise, at least in some of these encounters with that we've read through over the years, folks, that these entities want to be seen by humans. Now, the leading ideas behind this theory is that, these entities, or whoever basically is maybe working with them, like the government, wants people to get used to the notion of non-human and alien entities by basically, exposing people to them, and these people eventually tell their stories. Now, folks, would the government actually go to all that trouble just to do this? There's also a theory that basically that the government is going to use this as some sort of political tool in the future. Or is this actually real and these entities actually exist? Either way, we don't know. But anyway, we're at the end. So please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video. So be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.